Hey guys, VaulSC here, how you going? We're going to take another look at infiNity, the game. A bat rep between OSS, the Aleph subsection faction, and Acontecimento, the very difficult to pronounce Pan-Oceania sectorial. If you guys haven't already noticed, I've actually moved house, as you can tell from the background, in a new room now. Everything's looking good. Still playing infiNity, of course, just down the road, so just thought I'd share that with you. But we're going to be playing a game of rescue, and this is a really interesting mission because it's a difficult one. Let's get into it and we'll talk about it. So for this one, what you've got to do is you've got to go after 4 particular civilians on your opponent's side of the table. My opponent, again, Admiral JCJF, is using my former Pano collection, which I donated to him a while back, and his civilians are actually, and this is really ironic, he's actually using the Hospitalia Knights as civilians, so although you're going to see a lot of, Knights, Joan, that kind of thing on the table, they're not actually representing those models, so sorry about the confusion. These orange camo markers are representing my civilians, but the idea is that there's this massive zone through the table, which is a saturation zone, as bad as that is, but it's difficult ground as well, and it's an exclusion zone. So you can't really deploy out there, and as soon as you move into it without something that has multi-terrain, you basically stop and then have to start moving at the lesser of your 2 movement values, which can make it really difficult. And if your opponent's got a whole bunch of flash pulse, AROs, snipers, missiles, that kind of thing, shooting them is even harder because there's a saturation zone. So one way to do this mission is to use a lot of smoke and eclipse grenades, go out and grab the civilians and pull back. That's one way to go. Another way to win the mission, which I think is quite effective, is effectively just to wear your opponent down as much as you can. Try and drop on their side with infiltrators or AD troopers or impersonators and just get around that saturation zone and kill as much as you can. And then in the final turn, just go over there and grab a civilian without really moving it anywhere. As long as it's an exclusion zone, you'll probably have more points than they will. But an awkward mission, and I don't think it treats all sectorials and factions evenly, and you really need to know what you're doing to succeed with this mission. If you're playing Rescue in an upcoming ITS event, really recommend practicing it a couple of times first, just so you can get a feel for how it slows down your game plan. You don't just have to account for the number of orders it takes to get out there and bring the civilian back. You've got to account for running into AROs along the way, running into hidden deployment troopers, the awkwardness of getting around the map with your movement potentially reduced, running into the zone and stopping if you're not using your full allocation of movement, for example. So it does get pretty awkward. Okay, so what lists are we running for this one? My opponent... Let's have a look at his Acontecimento list, and again, reconstructed from memory. I can't always get this right. Apologies to my opponent, apologies to you for not really, remembering everything, but he did take the Guardia dell'Assalto, which is a specific unit for this mission, because it's the only thing in Pano which fires smoke grenades, and even better, they are Eclipse smoke grenades. Only problem with this guy, unfortunately, he's Blister Skill 10 with the grenade launcher. Not wonderful. But the thing is, you want to block line of sight. You want to move through, grab the civilian and pull back. I don't love this guy because he's got no stealth whatsoever, no martial arts, and as soon as he runs into any hacking, as he goes to pick up the civilian, it's going to be real trouble. Thing is, though, with Acontecimento, you've also got Dart, you've got these Nagas as well, who are not hackable, and they could move on to the civilians, as the Guardia has put the smoke on there. So I'd probably be running a Guardia myself if I was running this sectorial. Regular hacker, you want him to be able to put assist to fire onto your Sierra drone bot. A couple of other regulars in there, the mine layers, sensors, the lieutenant. A couple of different Bagmaris. They can join the link team, so HMG and Multi-Sniper. Multi-Sniper gets the mine layer as well, which I think is really cool. He's running Dart. I always look at Dart and I think, man, I'd really love to run this model in OSS, but I can never quite bring myself to take her, because she's not a specialist. The thing is, in this particular mission, if you're running a very specific rescue list, it's not bad, because she's got multi-terrain, she's a very good fighter out in the midfield, her stats allow her to synchronize with a civilian very effectively, she's got NWI and all of that, so pretty good choice, I think, for rescue, if I do say so. But for a lot of other missions, I think you're better off running, well, if you're OSS, you're probably better off running like Dazus and that kind of thing, but Acontecimento can definitely run her because she's preferable to some of the other choices. It's just that, yeah, Nagas are usually going to be the way to go. Whole bunch of bots, a couple of Nagas that we spoke of, Warcore, and yeah, fairly tight list, but again, apologies, I can't really remember what was exactly in it. Now, you guys have seen my my list before. I hate it how sometimes ITS sometimes jams on me. Let me see if I can reload it. So I'm running this list, which basically is the Keenies. I call this list. Okay, so we're not gonna look at the army list. All right, so not gonna be working. It's the one with the Dakinis and the Diva Spitfire, and a whole bunch of cheerleading bots. We've got the post-humans in there, a single Dazu Fort Observer. There's the post-humans, obviously the heavy rocket launcher, the hacker, the multi-sniper, and that's generally it. So we'll just jump into the game, we'll have a look. So my opponent opting to take first turn, which I felt was really ballsy. My thoughts are, again, that the optimal way to win this is probably to go second, just because it's so hard to do damage to your opponent that you may as well forget about trying to crush them with, you know, your shooting, and just go in there and be the last person grabbing the civilians and try to defend as well as you can. But it depends on what's in your list. He's got a HMG Bagmari and a Sniper Bagmari up here, plus the regulars down the bottom. Flash pulse bots and so forth around here. One of them's the Sierra. I think this guy here in particular is the Sierra. There's a Naga somewhere out in the midfield and Dart as well. I think this may be Dart here. This may be a mine. It's hard to tell which ones are mines, which ones are Nagas. I think there's a Naga around the back. Another mine here. That's the Warcore. Looking at the back line, pretty much the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty comical that these knights are representing civilians. And yeah, so just a backdrop of flash pulse spots. These flash pulse spots are very good in this mission because of the saturation zone, of course. And he has the one sniper here, which is going to be holding this long fire lane. Although it is his turn first, so he's not going to be using it straight away, most likely. I'm taking a hidden deployment verification photo of my Dazu, which is deployed a little bit further up. But remember, exclusion zone, you can't go further than 16 inches up. Let's take a look at my lineup. So this is the right-hand side deployment. You got a couple of probots, flash pulse bot here, the Shukra over the top here. This is the lieutenant. We've had one of the net rods land, but the other net rods scattered off the table. This is a Pelbot, sorry, not a Pelbot, well, you could call it a Pelbot, a Yudbot, I think is what you call it in OSS, back around here. Just because I might be deploying a post-human or a, you know, maybe the heavy rocket launch post-human around here somewhere. Just not 100% sure yet, because that's going to be the reserve trooper. Just have to wait to see what he does. The main link team here, you can see the HMG, Paramedic, the regular Dakini, the MSV2 Diva, the CSU here as well, Sophatech just hiding out. We'll be putting a Pelbot up here as well, just so it can walk down and repair these guys if needed, right? So even though there is a Pelbot deployed here, I actually picked it up and relocated it before the deployment zone, deployment phase ended. Alright, so there's the other flash pulse bot over here, just to take this very thin line there. The other net rod managed to scatter around, I think. Can't quite remember. The free range CSU over there. Also going to be deploying a post-human sniper here in hidden deployment. We'll take a photo of that soon, but the idea is just to get this thin line through here and just cover off the approach towards the civilians that he's going to be trying to rescue. There you go. So his reserve trooper is the Guarda dell'Assalto, represented by an Aquila Guard, and my reserve trooper is this guy in hidden deployment. And there's a bit of a look at his view of the table and what fire lines he can take. And my data tracker is going to be the Diva here. Then in his first turn, moves out with the Guarda. Just going to go straight for it. and lighting a smoke over here. Now, something really awkward happened, which I'll need to explain, and that is, I declared that my post-human sniper would shoot at the Guarda, or the bot that is, and then after checking I realized that my hidden deployment location didn't quite have line of sight to the Guarda, so for the rest of the game, he knows that I have the post-human multi-sniper, and he knows where it is. So what he's able to do, and this is a blunder from me, is just advance but not past this particular point until he's thrown down the smoke grenade, and then he just walks through there. So that's going to crop up later as well. Okay, so with the Guarda placing down the smoke grenades, note that there is actually a post-human heavy rocket launcher on the building over here, which I haven't really talked about yet. He's blocking off as many lines as he can, but burning through those orders as well. And with Ballistic Skill 10, he's going to fail some of the smoke attempts at some point, and it's going to be hard for him to go and get a civilian and pull back, noting that he doesn't have multi-terrain here either. With that in mind, we're also moving out with, I believe, Dart. So Dart's moving around through here, through the smoke template, around through the right-hand side of the table, and just coming in very carefully behind this building here. And again, we do know that there's a post-human up here, but it's not worth revealing him just to try and discover Dart. Dart could just shoot it with the SMG. Not that I know that it's Dart at this point, I don't know that. Guarda, realizing that not too much is going to come of this turn, is deciding to pull back, but the smoke templates have been useful. They've allowed a Naga to move up through to this central building, where it will be in position to move forward and grab the objective later on. Okay, so that's going to be happening in a future turn. Then he's going to move out with his TR bot. It's going to come around here. In fact, it's going to come around further there, because he wants to pick off a member of the Dakini Link team. So around he comes, and eventually gets to a point where he can just chase along the wall, gain line of sight right through here to the Dakini. I do have a Dazju situated here, which I didn't want to reveal until it was my turn. And again, post-human up here, didn't quite want to reveal until we're ready. Although I did think about it. So, with this last couple of orders, the HMG goes after the Dakini, does eventually reduce it to unconscious, and then it turns over to my turn. So interestingly, he's not really picked up any of the civilians. He's put himself into a much better position to get them in turns 2 or 3, which is something I respect. So Dart's out there, Naga's out there. But now I get a retaliatory turn to potentially attack the things that he's put in the midfield. And when you've moved your models to the midfield, it just makes it easier for your opponent to get to them because there's less ground to cover. So we'll see how that works in a moment. Dazju revealing, moving over to the position of the bot, able to just poke around the corner and shoot it. And this is the best way to deal with TR bots because surprise attack, TO camo and cover -12, the bot can't hit, so even with all of its dice can't do anything. Dazju's combi rifle is reduced to just 2 dice because of the saturation zone, but luckily he pulls through and the bot is reduced to unconscious. Using some more of the orders in group 2, placing a mine as well, because I'm just worried about the camo marker that he's got back there, and I'm also wanting to protect my civilian on this side of the table, so that's why the mine's going down. Over here, so we're activating the, this is the proxy with the last order, to put assisted fire onto the HMG. One other interesting that happened actually is that when he had his turn, he attempted to put assisted fire on his Sierra drone bot, but realized that the regular was actually out of range for the support wear, which was unfortunate. Anyway, soft attack activating, the Yud bot coming down the ladder, reviving the downed Dakini, and that's going to allow us to reform the link. I did have to spend a command token to reform it at this point, though. Then we can move out. So the plan is to put some pressure onto that Bagmari sniper. So they're moving into position and creeping around here. And we're getting to this point where the HMG is right here. He's got assisted fire. So he's going to be able to get line of sight to the Bagmari right up here. So again, the position of the HMG is here. Bagmari is here in a link team with a sniper rifle, and the saturation zone is going to work both ways. It's going to drop the Bagmari down to just 1 shot. HMG is going to be on 4 shots ultimately, and so the Bagmari does ignore the mimetism of the Dakini, but the Dakini does not ignore the mimetism of the Bagmari. So we're talking 14s once cover's ignored from the Dakini, and we're talking I think a 15 from the Bagmari on 1 dice though. Yeah, so 4 versus 1. The Dakini does win the face-to-face roll, and the Bagmari tanks it, but decides to, I think, stay there for a bit, so we have another round of shooting. Bagmari does get knocked down to prone after failing a guts check, but lives, so we don't actually kill the model, which was a little bit annoying, but it happens. So then moving further out, just getting the HMG to a spot where it can start drawing a bit of a line to the flashpole spots. I'm deciding to do this in turn 1 because after a couple of turns of just mauling the AROs, we'll get to a point where we can push out a dedicated push with a full link team in the final turn, where we'll have fewer flash pulse AROs to defend with, fewer multi-snipers and things like that, and I should be able to just walk over to one of the civilians and capture it and then end the game there. So that's the plan. I'm also kind of wary of this camouflage mark around here, and we're pulling in a bit of a play here, which is one of the cheesier plays you can do in infiNity, and I'll explain how it works. So the CSU has made the link leader, and the CSU has a light shotgun. Note that there is a Sierra drone bot that is unconscious here, and that will be a legitimate target for the light shotgun. What you want to do is take careful notice of this corner here of the terrain that's providing total cover, and the location of the camo marker, and then with, you know, a ruler or your mind's eye, you want to get an exact ruling of where the camo marker is in relation to the building. Okay, but when you're moving in with this CSU, don't quite come to that line, and then what you can do is use your boarding shotgun. If I grab a different color, and this is definitely a legal move, guys, is you aim the boarding shotgun at the corpse of the drone bot, and let's say it touches here, or touches here, doesn't really matter what part you shoot at, there's going to be a resulting cone from the shotgun's impact template, and because it spreads out, rather than following this individual line from the original shot, it's going to diverge and actually clip the camo marker. So the camo marker is not going to be able to respond other than by using a change face dodge. And the light shotgun blasts are going to be against just the corpse of the drone bot rather than against camo. So you've got a CSU which goes up to BS 15. The bot, I think, still gets cover, but I'm not sure. But anyway, it's still going to be hitting on 18s on 2 dice. Note the shotgun normally goes up to 3 dice, but -1 for the saturation zone. And this is actually legitimately going to hit Dart, reveal her, and in fact kill her, despite NWI, because she takes a couple of wounds right off the bat from this. So a bit more of a complicated, a bit more of an advanced play, but it's definitely a legit tactic. For those of you who whine and gripe about the difference between playing by intent and playing by, careful measurements and playing it where it lies, there may be a bit of a, controversy about how easy it is to do this, whether you actually just have to place your model and declare it, or whether you're able to sort of declare that you intend to get there. That's a bit of a topic for another day, although I've posted a lot of video content about it. But still, this is what happens in the game, and Dart is destroyed. Okay, so the Link team now pulling back to the safety of this building here, where they're still going to be able to provide some AROs, knowing that the most powerful offensive thing on the other side is the Bagmari HMG, but that particular HMG has a lot of stuff to go through to get line of sight to these guys, and I've protected a lot of the sight lanes with a heavy rocket launcher, post-human sniper, that kind of thing. So here we are, all set up, ready to go in to defend, of course, the civilians. Okay, so turn 2 for Acontecimento. The Guarda is back in action, firing the Eclipse smoke grenade again. Then he's going to move out. Note that, again, he moves out the Orc spot first into line of sight of the post-human. I decide not to take the ARO, thinking that, again, I don't have line of sight to it, whereas in fact I did. Then he keeps moving and argues that I have lost my ARO, and that's fair enough. I mean, I just need to be more diligent about recording exactly where it is and keeping my eye on where it was. Still, the Guarda himself doesn't really have enough movement to completely get into total cover against the sniper, so we do have the sniper revealing at this point and going after him. Here he is here. shooting right through this little gap at the glider, and that is going to be a dodge, I think, for Mr. Guida, and he does manage to do that successfully and bypass this horrible lane of death here. So Guida does get into the mid zone. Okay. Having a look here on the right-hand side, what he's doing next is he's basically just coming outside of the edge of the smoke up against this Dakini. Now, regrettably, we didn't really talk very carefully about how the ladders of this piece of terrain are dealt with. Some people play that the gaps between the little bits of the ladder, are just opaque. They block line of sight. Some people play it that it's just true line of sight. Because we hadn't really talked about it, it was kind of like a bit of both, but at the end of the day, we agreed that the Dakini would be able to see the Orc Bot as it pulls out of here. So what happens is the Orc Bot tries to come out, tries to place another Eclipse Grenade right here to make away with this civilian, but gets shot by the Dakini's combi rifle. What we have after that is the Guida trying to go for it. So the Guida pulls around and tries to get some damage done. I think he's been wounded already by the post-human sniper. So he tanked one save, took a wound. Is that how it happened? I can't quite be sure. He may have also been wounded by the the victorious Dakini during this as well, because this really didn't go particularly well for Acontecimento at this stage of the game. Either way, the Orc Spot's dead, the Guida is wounded. He is the data tracker, mind you. My Diva is the data tracker, and we've still got this Naga hanging out right next to him. So, having run out of orders, we come back to OSS turn, and unfortunately, both the Guida and the Naga are standing, and there's enough line of sight from my post-human heavy rocket launcher in this building, who had a line down here, by the way, throughout the game. That's why you saw the Eclipse Grenades go where they went. But unfortunately for Pano, he's able to fire at the Guida's position and put down a beautiful fiery template on the Guida and the Naga. So we go for that shot, and miraculously, the Guida manages to tank the armor save, and the Naga manages to get out of jail free as well, and then they're both duck prone, and this part of the building here is enough to stop line of sight once they do go prone. So they managed to get away there. Very, very nice, and that's the Naga Fort Observer or whatever it was. So the Diva's not too happy about that, so she stands up and starts moving her team out, her bots and her CSU pal. There was indeed a Bagmari sniper covering this area of the table, but it had been knocked prone by the HMG earlier, and in his turn he decided not to stand back up with it, so the coast is clear to move out. So they're all moving around, just totally rotating around the battlefield through here. As they pass the Mark 1 sniper, Mark 1 hacker, we move to Group 2's orders, and he goes blip, 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 blip with his laptop and puts on assistive fire into the HMG. That's going to come in handy. Then they can round the corner, and what we're wanting to do is just move the right models into line of sight first. So we're going to come around, I think, what's with the HMG first. Can't quite remember whose task it was, but we're going in against the Guida and the Naga here. As this happens, we realize there's an additional ARO further upfield there, where there's some other Naga, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Initially what happens though is that, in fact no, it's the Diva that goes out. Diva wanting to get into the good range with BS-15 and everything like that, and she does manage to crush the Guida and destroy the Naga as well as the data tracker. A bit dangerous, but she's right out in the midfield, and she can sustain more damage than the Dakini can because of her NWI, so ripping into everybody with a Spitfire. Yes, there is a saturation zone, but she still gets the job done. We also have this Naga down here who's popping off the occasional flash pulse or whatever he's trying to do, but he's also in a lot of trouble as the Guida falls and the other Naga falls, and we've still got a link team facing him down. So a lot of carnage here. There's the Naga repositioning. And after that, we're basically going to move up and camp around the right-hand side of the table and just wait for that third turn. So staying as close to the objectives as we can. Moving up here, and this Naga continuing to have a firefight with the Diva, but eventually it's the Diva who wins. She's able to go prone behind this wall. The bots move back behind this. The CSU is going to come through prone behind this wall as well. And there we are, we're all tucked away. And we've got the heavy rocket launcher watching over the table as well. With some other orders I've got in other groups, moving my secondary CSU out. We've still got the DASU there, still got the post-human. DASU moving right around here, just getting in position to threaten one of the other civilians on this side, should he, move his troops elsewhere, or if there's just, an opening for some reason. DASUs also have multi-terrain, very useful. So we then come back over to Acontecimento turn 3, and he is spending, I think, a command token to reform a link team here and just push everybody out. I've got nothing covering this, so they all clamber down and they move to the nearby building and they set up shop. So the plan here is to, first of all, protect this guy from the DASU, but also to move the sniper in behind these boxes and get line along that long diagonal angle through the table up against the post-human heavy rocket launcher and the DASU, the Dakinis. So here it is. Here's the long line of fire. So we've got this guy, the MSV-1 Bagmari multi-sniper in the link team, is able to shoot long range, and he's able to actually pick off some of these little... Oh, I've picked up a different color pen for some reason. Whoops. Wow, how did I pick that up? There we go. Got the right color now. So there's the DASU there in the distance, picked off by the multi-sniper quite handily. And he's also in a good position to cover the Diva if the Diva goes for one of the objectives. So there you are. The Diva's wounded, the CSU's still alive, and these Dakinis. The second one does get targeted, but manages to somehow get a crit dodge and pull himself into total cover safety. Okay, and then everybody else just moving around, putting down mines, just preparing for the final turn onslaught, right? Okay, so there's the view. So note that the Diva data tracker there, if it does go over the top of the ledge and around here to go after the civilian over there, the multi-sniper positioned here will actually see it as she does so. So that's going to be a little bit tough. I believe that if the Diva goes in there by herself, it's going to be 4 dice, 5 dice, -1 for saturation zone, 4 dice, and then long range and cover with the Spitfire, so she's probably going to be needing 6s on 4 dice, whereas the Bagmari, it's 1 dice, but he's still hitting on about a 15. There is the Forest as well, which the Bagmari ignores, but the Diva... Actually, no, the Diva does ignore MSV2. But she's only on 1 wound, so it's going to be very hard for her to punch her way through there, right? Okay, we've also got this heavy rocket launcher guy who's been shot by the sniper rifle. He does pull out and pull back and nail this guy as well, so that's not going to be an option either. What I decide to do when it's my turn is I look at the number of orders I've got, and I've got maybe 4 or 5 in Group 2 and 7 or 8 in Group 1, and I'm thinking the DASU might be able to put a dent into the link team before I move out. So what he's able to do is he's able to pull around here, and for some reason my opponent goes for a discover with all of them at once, allowing me to shoot for free into the guy with the HMG positioned there. I would go for the sniper rifle who's covering the battlefield. It's just that the model silhouettes are blocking each other, and I don't actually have line of sight to him. So the DASU reveals and shoots the HMG, and luckily does kill him. I think that I have actually managed to get past the saturation zone at this point as well, or I'm not actually sure. No, I think it's still saturation zone, but DASU coming up to the cover, TO camo obviously, and a combi rifle, and does manage to kill the HMG. Then we get into a situation where he's able to shoot at me with each of these regulars and the sniper rifle actually, and it gets a bit tough because I'm in the good range band here. So it's BS12 plus 3, so 15s on 2 dice for the DASU going after the sniper. The sniper can shoot back with 1 dice because the saturation zone. BS12 not -6 from the TO because he's got MSV1, so just -3, and cover as well, so I think he needs maybe a 6. Can't quite remember what the situation was, but the DASU definitely had good odds to kill the sniper, but is up against a bunch of combi rifles as well. I may not have done the maths on that right, and I'm not 100% sure what the range bands actually were now that I think back to it. But having cover, having NWI, and having TO camo was definitely useful in the spot, and eventually the DASU does manage to kill the sniper. Now, that was, it wasn't incredibly lucky, and it wasn't incredibly likely, but it was a decent chance for the Dazu to actually take the sniper out there. And once that's done, the game is basically over. So the Naga stands up, there's nothing contesting her, able to move out towards the civilian. And I did have enough orders to actually grab the civilian. We ended the game there, but I could have potentially continued moving the link team around and sending one of the Dakinis into base contact with a second civilian to capture that as well. Would I have had enough orders to get one of them back to the dead zone or the deployment zone? I'm not 100% sure, but that's the way to get points in this mission. Not to have two civilians in the same place, but to have civilians in different parts of the battlefield. That's when you start getting more points. So a bit of an awkward one, and I really recommend actually reading the rescue rules carefully before playing, just for the breakdown of how to get objective points. So one thing I want to talk about at the end of this game is, well, what would have happened if the Dazu hadn't completed his mission of going after the Bagmari sniper and killing it? What would I have been able to do to avoid a draw? Because it would have been a draw otherwise. One thing I could have done is I could have moved out with something else from Group 1 on my side. I might have been able to move down with the Shukra Lieutenant. I might have been able to move out with my other CSU and just get around to a point where I could have gone for one of the civilians or even engaged the Bagmari from close range. I could have moved up with my boarding shotgun CSU and just gotten really, really close and had a crack at him from basically point blank, potentially killing him and then grabbing the objective. That's something I could have tried. I could have also attempted moving out with the Diva and just dodging until I got into total cover. I had a lot of orders to spare, so I could have tried that, then moved to something else. So it wasn't all lost there if the Dazu didn't really get what he wanted done. But it was definitely helpful that actually occurred. So again, rescue, very, very interesting mission. My recommendation, try and take some sort of smoke if you can. It's good to have multi-terrain stuff if you can. If you are playing a faction that's got really good airborne deployment or impersonators, they can be great for getting on the other side of the really difficult zone, of the exclusion zone and so on. So try that as well. But again, be patient. It may not be the best strategy to spend all of your orders in your first turn grabbing a civilian and pulling back, because you've still got 3 turns of your opponent shooting you to get through. And at the end of the game, in the final turn, if your opponent just moves over there and shoots the thing that's holding the civilian, well, you don't count as having it synchronized anymore. So going second is not such a bad idea, especially since it's easier to defend having that beautiful saturation zone there. So if you've got a intruder sniper, knocked for missile launcher, that kind of thing, or a tag, just so much easier to defend until it's that final turn, that final round, to really make it count with who holds the civilians. Hope you guys enjoy this one. We'll be back with some more content throughout the week. Thanks for watching as always.